My name is Alicia Boujeya Said. My work is a fisheries advisor at the Ministry for Agriculture, Fisheries, Food and Animal Rights. Basically, my role involves various aspects related to fisheries and aquaculture, but predominantly I focus on the research domain, so I provide advice on the type of research that the Ministry, through the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, needs to implement to be both compliant with the EU regulations on the data collection framework, but in parallel to ensure that the way that the research is conducted is in line with the needs of the fisheries and aquaculture sector. My professional responsibilities are quite wide, and mostly I focus on the governance of the fisheries sector. And I think through my academic experience in different universities and also the writings I've done on the subject helped me gauge more in-depth information and methodology of how best to govern the fisheries sector. When I was the director of fisheries until a few months ago, I noticed that most of the focus was on the fish stocks. I started refocusing the research groups at the department to look into more the social and the economic element. We are also looking at the FAO voluntary guidelines for small-scale fisheries in parallel with the Sustainable Development Goals, which are a couple of milestones that Malta, as a European Union member state, needs to implement to have more sustainable fisheries in our waters. My role in the public sector gives me the opportunity to bring change. And so I consider my job as satisfying, not only because I am working on the subject which is most dear to me and which I have a passion for, but because through my career, through my profession, I am able to walk the talk of what I've researched during my time as a doctoral and a postdoctoral student. So yes, I can say that I'm very satisfied with my job, and incidentally, my maiden name is Said, which also means fishing. So that's something that I believe has been an important component for me to remain passionate towards the subject. In 2013, I left Malta to pursue a doctoral degree at the University of Kent, specifically at the School of Anthropology and Conservation, an interdisciplinary school which I believe provided me with the skills to be able to closely understand the implications of sustainability with regards to EU policies and the Maltese fishing sector. Following that, I was given the opportunity to follow a postdoctoral fellowship at the Memorial University of Newfoundland in Canada with the Too Big to Ignore group, which is a global partnership for small-scale fisheries, focusing mostly on the governance and sustainability of small-scale fisheries around the world. During the doctoral degree and my first postdoc, I was able to acquire governance skills and also attend a number of conferences through which I met different professors and scientists from around the globe. As an interdisciplinary scientist, entering the public sector to work specifically on fisheries, I think it was crucial that I had the doctoral skills which I achieved throughout my career. I was able to utilize them to better manage the fisheries sector. In my doctoral degree, I conducted a number of anthropological interviews with the fishing communities where I was able to closely understand the different realities. Then, during my time as a director of fisheries and now as a fisheries advisor, I can easily understand the problems of the fishing communities, and the policies which the department implements are based on such research. For example, one of the main findings of the PhD is the fact that the fishing sector is not being regenerated because of the capital investment that the younger generation cannot afford. So based on this, we implemented a bluefin tuna quota allocation specifically for fishers under the age of 41 years old. Apart from that, we are implementing also policies on the use of trammel nets, on the lampuki fisheries. So the doctorate degree, which was based on 5 main case studies, has given me the tools to provide the necessary input on the change needed for the sustainable management of the sector. So during my PhD and the postdocs, there was not specific internships like there are in, for example, master's or bachelor's level that prepares people for the labor market. I was studying closely policy matters. Then I was automatically venturing into the labor market related to policy, which in this case is the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture and the ministerial part of it in terms of the political process. I think the PhD journey introduces you to different challenges through which you learn skills. The skill to manage time, the skill to be resilient. But I think the biggest skill that as a Maltese leaving the country has given me is the fact that I became more independent. I was able to start looking for example, different opportunities of conferences and presenting during these conferences. I remember I was invited to give a keynote speech in Thailand for the Small Scale Fisheries Congress, where there were about 400 people. That was a big challenge. I remember I was preparing a lot for it, and it turned out to be a success. And on that same day, I was invited to then go and give the same presentation to the Our Oceans in Bali, in Indonesia. I think a message to students in Malta, given that we live on an island, we need more research on our seas. We need to understand closely how we affect the sea and how the seas are affecting us, and how we can better provide informed management through your research, after all, because the research that is conducted by students can inform policy. And on the other hand, I believe that employers can do more to attract PhD students who focus on the maritime sector.